All right. Welcome, everybody. We're here with DJ Williams today. DJ, it's so great to see you again. Talk to you a
It's
couple
great to be back.
You have been busy as always. So excited to talk a little bit about what you've been up to. I know that you had some music come out since the last time we talked.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I think at that point you were kind of in the process of releasing a bunch of dates with a new lineup too. So why don't we get into that? Let's talk about, who you've got playing with you these days, what that looks like.
Yeah, so I'm just coming off of a 21 date spring tour, and that was mostly a West Coast date, almost mostly all California dates. And I had some good friends with me. I had my drummer Nico Williams from Richmond, Virginia, Dominic Williams from right here from Colorado Springs, and who else is with me? Oh yeah, Gio Han from Denver was on bass.
Nice,
And
nice.
yeah, we call ourselves Williams, and Han. Sound like a law firm on the road.
I'm going to call you when I need some help, just so you know.
Exactly.
You guys can get it done. Yeah, I mean, just looking at where you've been, but also what's coming up for the rest of the summer, super exciting. And you have that lineup also for your band that features. I know kind of a couple different folks, but including Ben Atkin. Do you want to talk a little bit about kind of how that came to be, and what that looks like in terms of your music and kind of how that's going to flow?
So I met Ben during the first year of COVID. It was 2020, and a friend of mine she was living in Denver at the time. She's from Florida, named Jessica. She's a singer. I don't know if you guys know who she is, but yeah. So she put together a band to tour Florida, like in the height of COVID lockdown, and I was like, of course this would only work out in Florida. So Ben was on that gig, and of us in this band, and that's the first time I had met Ben. And I think Goose was kind of still in her infancy at the time, and me and him just like hit it off on that tour. Like the way that we played just gelled really well, and he's one of the nicest people that you could ever meet in the industry as well too. And so we just formed a really great friendship, and we kind of kept in touch between then and now. And since he had left Goose and he's playing with a new band called Elephant Proof now, I thought I would just give him a cold call and be like, hey man, I'm getting this tour. And we'd always talked so much about playing together. I would love to have you on board. And he said yes. And we're going to have rehearsals here in a little bit. And he's playing at the Cervantes show with me on May 24th and Buena Vista on the 25th. So that'll be the springboard shows for Ben Atkins.
Oh, love that. And I'm glad you mentioned Jessica. I
absolutely
love her work, and she pops up everywhere. I know she was based in Denver for a long time, so that's a very cool connection to make between all of you. That's awesome.
Yeah. We're actually ending the tour in Jacksonville at the Underbelly, and Jessica Jones will be opening up. So that's one of the places we played on her tour. So it's kind of this full circle thing coming back around. So it'll be really cool.
Amazing. And how was Jazz Fest for you? I know you were down there busy.
It was really good. I had DJ Williams band. That was the first actual show of mine down in I played in New Orleans before, but Jazz Fest After Dark series, and it went really well. I had a great turnout and got to perform some of this new music, and we had a really great time.
So let me ask you how you work it. You call up Ben, you're like, dude, I need you on the road with me. He's like, man, I'm down. Do you just say, hey, check out my whole catalog, everything I ever did, make sure you learn everything? Or
the whole catalog. I put together a little Dropbox of stuff that I know we're going to play on the tour. I wouldn't do Ben like that. or anybody like that. But yeah, it was really just like, I'm going to call him. I'm going to see if he's going to be down to do this. And sure enough, he was excited to play.
Right. Are you thinking, when you're thinking about the set list coming up, I guess you're going to be leaning heavily on RVA and Soldier of Love, right?
I'm leaning heavily on the last 4 records I've done, because this tour, especially this one coming up, is a lot of cities I've never played in ever before, at least not with my own thing. So like Cleveland and Albany, I don't think I've been in these cities since early 2000s, if ever at all, for a lot of the shows on these runs. So it's going to be a big coming out tour for me. So I'm really excited. This is probably the longest and biggest solo tour I've ever done headlining. So I'm really excited for this one coming up.
I know it's so many dates that on Instagram it almost doesn't even fit the whole
Exactly.
you know,
Right.
And kicking off, like you said, here in Colorado for a bunch of dates, and then heading to the East Coast, the Northeast, after, which is super exciting, and that's great. I mean, I would imagine that, like you said, returning to these cities or markets, or maybe heading there for the first time, that's got to be a really exciting thing, because you're going there in 2024 with all of the experience that you have, but can delight people who just maybe haven't had as much exposure to your full catalog.
Absolutely. And you know, like it feels like I call it re-upcoming musician, because I'm leaving this project of supporting and then coming out on my own. And so it does feel like I'm again, and as an independent artist, these are the things you can't skip. So my plan is to keep coming back and keep playing these cities over and over to try to build my fan base in markets where people may not know me as well as others. So this is the beginning of a long journey that's coming up for me.
Yeah.
And win over the fans in these cities one at a time if I have to.
Well, the energy is going to be there, and you have so much to share with them. I would imagine that thinking of set lists and just song selection, there's probably so much that you could do. You know, is there anything in particular that you would really want people to hear at these shows, like even from your older stuff, like anything that kind of jumps out as like, yeah, this is the thing that I know is really going to show who I am? Or is it really just a mix of those different?
It's really just the core. The whole show is the representation, because even with the way I'm taking these songs that come over the last 4 or 5 years of writing these solo albums, but the way that I've laid out my show, the whole show tells a story, and the whole show is a representation of all the styles of music that I play, representation of how I like to put on a show, which is, I think, kind of a lost art form. And I think I go to see a lot of shows, especially now that I have a lot more free time than I used to. And the one thing that I take away from a show is how that show is presented, not just necessarily single songs. It's like, does it tell a story? Is there a climax during the show? And that's how I feel like a show should be. I try to put on a show as if I'm in the audience, and that's how I'm trying to.
There you go. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. The last time we talked to you, RVA had not come out yet. What has the reception been like for you?
It's been really good. I've gotten a lot of comparisons to Lenny Kravitz from this record. That wasn't the intention, but it doesn't seem to be a bad comparison, so I'll take that. But
you did your Curtis Mayfield for Soldier of Love, and now you've done your Lenny Kravitz for this.
Yeah, but I've always been a rock guy at heart, and I think the grittier sound of this record is a solid representation of what I really love. And like, yeah, so these songs are really fun to play live because the energy is just amazing.
Yeah. And I know for Soldier of Love, when I had read some reviews or, some things that had been posted about that, there's a lot of talk about you embracing vulnerability, personal growth, which definitely comes across. And I feel like not as an answer, but kind of maybe as like a next step forward or, next phase, you have RVA. I mean, do you see them as connected at all, or are they really two different statements?
They're all connected because, it's all my art. And I feel like I'm, even after 20 years of being on the road, I feel like I'm just now coming into my own. I feel like I'm just now finding out who DJ Williams is. I feel like I'm more comfortable on stage than I've ever been in my entire life. And I feel like that's going to be very prevalent in these tours and in these shows.
Wow. Fantastic. In terms of summer stuff going on, we talked a little bit about dates. Are there any festivals that you'll be at or anything kind of, happen in there that you'd want to talk about?
We applied to like every single festival. It's a very competitive market right now. It is very hard to get into anything because there's actually bands out here who are paying to be in festivals. That's how competitive it is out here. And like, I'm not at that point or like willing to do that. I'd like much rather be invited. So we're not doing a lot of festivals. And another thing I was trying to do is to not be pigeonholed in just the jam band market. I've embraced it and I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to be embraced outside of that world as well too, because I feel like my music can cross over and be a lot more than just in this one world as well too. So
yeah.
I'm with you, and we've talked with you about the jam band label before. You know how you were with Carl Denson, which isn't exactly a jam band, but you know the
and I love
crowd
the
is
jam band
embracing.
world. The jam band world has taken very good care of me. This is not me shunning the jam band world at all, because I absolutely love it, and I've loved being embraced, and I completely will never turn my back on it. I'm just trying to go broader. I'm trying to think broader. Yeah.
I feel like Karina Reichman has been trying to do that, to step outside of, being that, which is a beautiful thing. I mean, I feel like what you do is deserving of a larger audience. So hopefully you can make that jump there.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
But if there's any festival people out there listening to this, give me a call. I'm ready.
We had Ian from Soulshine one last week, which I hadn't known. I guess that's already set, but there's always next year. You got to be thinking a year ahead. You should be applying to next year's festival.
I'm thinking 5 years ahead. Trust me, I'm ready. Yeah.
Well, if you can predict the state of the music festival scene 5 years from now, you need to be taking that information
exactly.
Because it comes up a lot. And one of the reasons I was curious is just, we've seen, of course, announcements about some festivals just not being able to continue, but yet there's new coming up, right? And so this kind of feeling that there's almost nothing sacred in that music festival space anymore.
Absolutely, it's very true.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at the Bonnaroo lineup that comes out. I don't know honestly who half of those people are. That's crazy to me, and it's like, man, this is a world that I've been very deep inside, and I can't name a quarter of the band on a festival bill sometimes now.
I don't feel so bad then.
Or maybe it's an age thing. I don't know, but
I don't know. But yeah, the relevance thing, and just obviously financially.
Absolutely.
There's a lot going on there, so I can appreciate that, and I think the way that you have kind of set things up for yourself, you are reaching fans directly where they are, and that's an important thing.
A festival in Philly called Sudden Little Thrills with Wiz Khalifa was supposed to play. Apparently just canceled today. And they wiped their Instagram and Twitter feeds clean. Yeah. They got rid of all their posts.
Yeah, and we're seeing, like you were saying before, we're seeing a lot of that. A lot of festivals having to say, we just can't logistically put this on anymore, because there's so much competition out there, and it's just everyone's got a festival. Anyone with deep pocketbooks feels like they can put on a festival, which is also not the case either. Like,
pre Clifford Ball, right? Before '96, there were no festivals anymore. You never had, you'd have like local bands do a festival at the parking lot
of
Legion Hall or something like that. Yeah. They'd let you camp in the backyard.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
In terms of like just other stuff going on, I want to make sure you have a chance to share, whether it's related to tour or not, that you're working on, involved with. Is there anything that you'd want to share with us?
I'm working on growing my nonprofit Project Music, which I started when I was living in Virginia. I felt like I was doing really well, and I wanted to find a way to give back on my own. So I started Project Music as a way of raising money to fund these underprivileged kids programs. Music to take instrument donations and raise money to keep these after-school programs and music programs alive. So I've decided to bring that here to Denver and work with Music Cares, and I've got a lot of sponsors now. And this Friday we're doing a poker tournament and charity concert for my nonprofit Project Music, and we're going to be donating every last bit of the proceeds to schools and after-school programs to keep these music programs alive for us kids.
Wow. Yeah, you give a kid an instrument, you change a kid's life.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's
I'm
fantastic. So
trying to
what
be a
about
lot more.
local shows? What kind of local things you got going on? I know you're always popping up places.
Yeah. I'll be at Cervantes, which is right here in my neighborhood, May 24th, and doing a bunch of stuff. Is like the next coming of Hendrix, and he actually does a lot of Hendrix stuff. So I'm excited to go out with him, and I'll be back at the Velvet Elf Lounge in Boulder, and what else? And Buena Vista and Valeria on May 25th.
Right. Now, when you're out with Marcus Machado, are you? Is it going to be just solo, or are you taking a band with you?
I'm gonna have a band, and he's gonna have his band, and I'll be opening some shows, and he'll be opening some shows. So, yeah.
We spoke with him 2 weeks ago, I guess,
Oh, nice.
and I discovered him thanks to you posting on Facebook you were opening for him, and I was like, well, if DJ likes him, I'm going to look him up, and I listened to him. I was like, gotta have that guy on. It's such a great story with the whole Rolling Stone Young gun.
Right? Yeah. A really amazing guy with an amazing story for sure.
We went down a Prince Paisley Park hole because he said something about Prince, and I was like, "You ever been to Paisley Park?" And then he was like, "Oh yeah." I was like,
"Yeah,
pretty amazing."
That must be the real. Must be going to like LeBron.
I don't even know about that story. I'm gonna have to ask him about that when I see him.
Kevin told me.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. All right, well, we're going to let you go because we were just trying to catch up with you there, and you know the door's always open.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure rapping with you guys.
Yeah, and I was going to say after the tour, we'll probably call you up again for the 100th time to hear how it went with Ben. All right, let me run the outro here, and hang on for a second for me.